We have Dr. John Ashton on the show for us this morning on the Breakfast Show. Are you there, John?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
It's great to have you here. You're with Daniel Livingston and Cal. We know each other, John, from outside of the studio, but I believe that you are here to talk to us about evolution. Does that sound right?
Yes, that's right. Some of the problems with the theory of evolution that people may not be aware of.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're talking about the problems of evolution. I'm hoping that we'll get to talking about what's a better alternative by the end of it. But let us know. Well, we want to dig deeper. What are the problems with evolution?
Yeah.
Tell
us. I think one of the main things is that evolution is a very, very broad term. And evolution does occur in terms of living things, but not the type of evolution that produces a new organism. In other words, evolution, Darwin's theory of evolution, can't explain the origin of all the different types of animals and bacteria and plants and fish and so forth that we have. And this is a subtle difference. So we do see changes that occur. For example, over time, species can grow larger. Parts of their fur can change colour, the thickness of fur, this sort of thing. We can have colour changes. These minor things can occur. And Darwin proposed a theory where essentially he thought there would be mutations and then natural selection, environmental factors would select out the best mutation to survive. And this essentially underpins the theory.
What you just explained there of natural selection based on mutations and the mutations that are the best adapted to the environment, or even the expression of genes best adapted to the environment, that all sounds like it is reasonable. It actually happens. Is that right? So that's the microevolution that you're talking about that actually is a real thing that, that there's no dispute about that. Is that right?
Well, no, it's a half-truth.
Okay.
And this is where people get caught.
Yeah.
And so natural selection, we definitely observe that. That's a real thing.
Yep.
And the classic example during the Industrial Revolution, a lot of soot around, light-coloured moths were more readily eaten by the birds. They could be seen more easily on the dark background. And so there was selection. So essentially most of them died out. And later on, however, because the dark moths were still carrying some genetic information, once we cleaned up the environment, they slowly came back. So natural selection certainly works. But the problem is mutations don't produce new organisms. This is the important thing. So what Darwin assumed was that there would be mutations would occur and that these mutations would accumulate to the point that eventually a new organism forms. Now,
and that's never been observed, right?
That doesn't occur, yes, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons is that the number of mutations required to produce actually a totally new biochemical pathway or a new body part, a new horn or, for a pig to develop a wing or something like this and be able to fly is an enormous amount of mutations. And the other thing is that we find in living systems, living organisms, there are a whole lot of systems to actually stop mutations accumulating and eliminate that. And, the classic example is in sexual reproduction, we inherit code or genes from both our parents, and the idea from the male and female gamete cells, and the idea is there that if there's damage in one, a mutation in one, hopefully the other parent won't have that damage and therefore it is corrected. But the other thing is that scientists have been doing research in this area because they've been looking for a long time to try and justify the theory of evolution. Now, of course, this isn't just usually taught to students, but this is research they've been pushing for a long time. Now, one of the top geneticists in the world is a guy, Dr. Eugene Koonin. He's head of the genetics research area from the National Institute of Health in the United States. Back in 2007, he published a very, very interesting paper where he was looking at the probability of mutations occurring. And he did some calculations and calculated that the probability of a very primitive replication system occurring that would enable molecules that had accumulated to form some sort of organism to reproduce, right? Mm. The chances of that occurring were 1 part in 10 to the power 1,018.
Whoa,
now, this is an unbelievable number. So to give you an idea, and to give listeners a bit of an idea, Avogadro's number is 10 to the power 23. So that is the number, say, of atoms in a mole, or the molecular weight of a substance in grams. So if you, say, had a tablespoon of water, or a dessert spoon of water probably, that would have about 10 to the 24, power 24 atoms in it. And so you imagine there's a lot of atoms just in a teaspoon. Now try and imagine how many atoms there are in all the oceans of the world. And then just try to imagine how many atoms there are in all the matter in the universe, in all the giant stars and so forth. Well, scientists have calculated that, and it's only 10 to the 80. In other words, exponentially, numbers increase enormously beyond our mind once we use. Now, if there are only 10 to the 80 atoms in the universe, just imagine how many, if you had as many universes as there are atoms in the universes, and you had all those atoms, that would only be 10 to the power 160. So just imagine 10 to the power 1,018, and the chances of finding a specific atom in amongst all those atoms it's just an unimaginable. Now, that's the probability of just the amount of atoms lining up to make a replication system.
Yeah, right.
Now, that was published back in 2007. Now, the other thing is has
that paper made a significant impact in the public debate
It's scary, and the scientists just tend to ignore it, and they say, well, it happened.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but really it's impossible, and that's the point that he points out. Another thing he points out too is that, say you had the chemical reactions to form the DNA, the original DNA, right, or some sort of primitive DNA. DNA by itself is useless unless you have a code reader to read the DNA, and that's a ribosome. Now, the structure of the ribosome was actually only worked out about the same time, actually, and it probably inspired Koonin to put out his paper, and that was back in 2007. And a number of chemists from several universities won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for elucidating the structure of a ribosome. So only over 300,000 atoms make up this little mini machine that can read the DNA and assemble proteins. It's an amazing machine. So again, the probability of that forming, a machine forming at the same time that can read the DNA code. But the fascinating thing is that the DNA code encodes the code to make a ribosome, but it's useless unless there is already a ribosome to read the code.
Right.
Now, another thing...
Yeah.
Now, another thing that people don't realise, and this often happens with biologists and these people that promote the theory of evolution, zoologists and this sort of thing, is that the reactions, chemical reactions required to produce these biochemical systems that are essential for life actually don't occur in nature. They can't happen in nature. Just like you can put a piece of platinum in sulfuric acid, it will never react with sulfuric acid. The reaction just doesn't go. And the same thing with these biochemical reactions that are required to actually form living systems only occur in pre-existing living systems because they require specific compounds such as enzymes. And it was very interesting that one of the top synthetic chemists in the world, Dr. James Turr, is one of the most highly cited chemists, so that means that his research is quoted by other scientists, right? He's a leader in his field. And he's a very, very strong creationist, and he points out that, these reactions don't occur, and he was sick of people rubbishing him and saying, oh, no, evolution occurs, it's where so many papers have been published on evolution. And so he issued a challenge and he said, okay, he said, if you can show me the chemical reactions that occur and demonstrate to me that they occur that can produce these biological compounds, I will delete all my posts and I will stop talking about it. Now, there was only one scientist that took up his challenge, and that was a Dr. Lee Coonan from St Andrews University, another chemist. Yeah. They had a big debate at Harvard University. You can watch it online. And again, this is Cronin, not Coonan. Coonan was the first scientist. This guy's Lee Cronin. All Cronin could again suggest was that there were probabilities, but again, he couldn't come up with any known chemical reactions to produce the biological building blocks for evolution to occur. So these are one of the major problems that biologists have in trying to explain evolution and the possibility of new life parts forming, new organisms.
Dr. Ashton, we've just got a minute or so to go. Do you want to give us a summary of the three issues that you've identified? I think it's three. So there's
sure. So mutations don't produce new body, but the mutations can't accumulate.
Is it true to say that mutations? Is it true to say that mutations don't even produce new genetic information, let alone a new organism? Is that true?
Mutations can change reactions by deleting data. Yeah. Or they can duplicate existing data. They can build a little bit, but they can't build sufficiently to produce enough code to produce a substantial new body part, and it's never been observed. Yeah. The only explanation is supernatural creation. We are evidence of the supernatural. We are evidence of a supernatural process occurring.
Awesome. That's great, Dr. John Ashton. And you've shared with us several insights as to how evolution is just an impossible theory, untenable completely. So thank you very much, Dr. Ashton. We really appreciate your insight and wisdom.